I'm going to put a smaller hook in the thing, and this is a Daiichi 1530 size 14 again, and it's also another heavy wet fly hook, but again on the Columbia River we must use stronger hooks because the fish are too big, and that's a problem we have. Now the next step on this one, I've changed thread from a red to a brown because I'm going to tie a brown little caddis fly. It'll be sort of another go-to dry fly caddis. What I'm going to do for a body, I'm going to use what we call is a squirrel spiky dub, and that's a product from SLF, and I'm using a chocolate brown. Certain times a year, almost in the mornings and late at night, there's a really dark chocolate brown caddis fly that hatches, and he's smaller than the regular net spinning mottled caddis, and so we have to match that one. And when I start out in the morning, I need something smaller and darker for my fly. Now this pattern works almost all the time because it's small and it's dark, and I want this one to actually float. So what I'm going to do, I add the spiky dub. You can add floating to this body and it'll work, but then I'm going to add a CDC fibers to the underwing, and what I'm going to do is pinch off quite a bit of CDC, pinch it all together. I'm going to tie it on, and I'm not going to worry about how clean I've tied it on, but I'm going to actually clean up the head a little bit. Now, I don't want my wing too long, and if you want more floatant, you add the little bit that you cut off. I'm going to also leave a little tuft for the front of the fly. I'm not sure if you can see it. It's such a fine material, it looks good, but we're going to leave it as that. Again, I like to add just a couple of fibers of ultraviolet crystal flash, just to give it something of flash when the fish can see it. I don't know if they can see it, but it's there, and they do like to look at it. Now, the last part of this one fly is I'm going to add what we call a Hungarian partridge wing. And I look for my little Hungarian partridge, and I'll show you a few feathers. And when I actually pull out a Hungarian partridge feather, that's what you get. And so I'm going to pick out a couple of them because I like to put a couple on top of each other. And I have some brown ones and some that have all kinds of colors. I prefer this light brown one. And the way I prepare it is I will pinch it together. I'll place it on top of my fly, proper size, put my other hand in place, tighten it up, and there's one part of the wing. Because it's so small and dainty, I will actually add a second one on top of the other one. And I squeeze it all together. When you add your your wing. This one is a dry fly, so I leave a little bit of product there. I do like to add a little 1 or 2 wraps of hackle. Now this being a really dark fly, I take either a black hackle or a dark brown hackle, and all I do is give it 2 wraps, and that'll help keep this fly afloat. And it'll give us what we want. A really small, dark colored caddis fly. And again, we don't add a lot of material, we don't add a lot of bulk to it. It's supposed to be very, I'll just say, soft. Now this is one thing I like to do with a little fly, is get rid of my hackle on the bottom side of my fly. What does this do? It leaves it flat in the water. When a fish bites, there's really no hackle interfering with the hook itself to hook that fish. Just little things you do when you fish a little bit. You look for these added things to help you when you want the fly to float. You want a tiny body. You want a little added hackle to help it float high. The CDC under the wing will keep it floating longer, and it's just another nice little caddis pattern I use certain time of year. Like I say, there's a lot of different patterns that are necessary. Okay, I sneak in and I pinch that barb so that the conservation officers don't pinch us. But it also helps letting the fly go out of the fish's mouth. When we're releasing this, most of the time when the fish hits the net, the fly actually falls out of his mouth. So it's a really nice pattern for just about all season. When they get really finicky, this is the fly I have to go to catch a few fish.